hey, to be happy, really happy in life, and enjoy a lot of things and not panic when you don't need to, and take advantage of the situation when there is an opportunity, you really need to see the big picture. And what is a better way to see the big picture, or how big can you go when you look at the whole world, the humanity, the human race of the whole world? So let's look at this website. I've already made a video about it again, but I want to go through that in detail. This is like amazing. So here's the website. Now, normally it is this website is in white, but I have this plugin. So normally this website looks like this, but I'm gonna make it, black mode is my favorite. So current world population, as you can see, it's 7.77 billion people. Now, when I say billion, obviously I'm using the most typical nomenclature in the English world, which is I think the shorter, it's called the short one, whatever the name is. In other countries, this number may be referred to as a milliard, but usually in English-speaking countries, it's billion, yeah? So just to make it clear, so it's 9 zeros, so to say. So we've got 7 and then 9 digit afterwards, okay? So 7.7 billions. Okay, so births today almost 300,000, deaths all like 123,000. That's obviously an average, but it's really well estimated. And the population growth today is 171,000. Now, what's also incredible, today is the 17th of March, and the population growth is 17 million. So 17th of March, coincidentally, 17 million of people more. So there were over 12 million deaths so far, and almost 30 million births this year. So if you look at the birth rate, it's incredible. So if we go like 0, 1, 2, so in 2 seconds, 10 people have been born or were born in 10 seconds. So can you imagine 5 women giving birth to at least one child every second? So boom, 5 children have been delivered, incredible. All right, so let's continue. Let's have a look a bit lower. Now, this is pretty interesting. So China is almost at 1.5 billion people. It's incredible, and India, this is even more incredible. They're not far behind, like what, 60, 70 million behind them only. So they will soon surpass them, I guess, and they're growing. If you look at the growth rate, you can see how it's changing. It's 17, 18, whereas China is growing much more slowly. Then USA is the next one, big difference. It's like, 3-4 times smaller than Indonesia. Pakistan, that's a surprise for me. Brazil, Nigeria, again, big surprise for me. Bangladesh, Russia, and Mexico. Now, I think it's also worth looking at the next 10 of the countries. So Japan, again, lots of people. Ethiopia, Philippines, Egypt, Vietnam, Republic of Congo, Turkey, Germany, Iran, Thailand. Now, Germany, a lot of people, 83 million people. So that is also quite a large number. Now, Germany is a bit bigger than Poland, but it's got more than double the population of Poland. So, and Poland is not a small country in Europe. It's a fairly large country. So that just shows you how big Germany is. And they have quite a good economy as well. They are quite powerful, yeah? Right. So let's go to the next bit, past, present, and future. This is interesting. So we've got some statistics. Now, these are not very precise, but as precise as they could be. So we can see that at around maybe 1650, the population started growing. And then at around 1950, it started exploding. And then today we are, let's find where we are today, somewhere here. So the 1st of July 2020, so we're going slightly into the future, a few months. It's almost 8 billion, so 7.8 billion people almost this year, half of this year will be predicted. And then at around 2080, there will be 10.7 almost billion people. And then this is when it will slow down, and at the end of it, so 2100, 10.9 billion people are expected to be on our planet now. So Let's keep going. Now, it's important to look at certain things. So here they say, at the dawn of agriculture, about 8000 BC, the population of the world was approximately 5 million people. Yeah, not a lot, very, very few. And then over 8,000 years, it grew to about 200 million. So big growth. However, some estimate to be it to be 300 or even 600 million. So it suggests how imprecise population estimates of early historical periods can be. It's obviously there are no credible, reliable records from those times, so you need to estimate it using whatever techniques you have available to you. Now, this is incredible. Now, the next thing, it's kind of not incredible, but quite interesting. So a tremendous change occurred with the Industrial Revolution. Whereas it had taken all humanity until around 1800 years for the world population to reach 1 billion, the second billion was achieved by only in 130 years, so by 1930. And then the third billion in 30 years by 1960, the fourth in 15 years, so half of the time, 1974, and the fifth billion in 13 years, 1987. So the growth started to slow down. So because there was 30, then 15, and then 13, not half of the time, only like 10%, 20% was shaved. Okay, now during the 20th century alone, the population in the world has grown from 165 billion to 6 billion. So like 3 times, 4 times more. That was an incredible growth. Yeah, 20th century, I guess. The world became an easier place to live. The Industrial Revolution, the food was more available. The medical sciences have improved a lot. Okay, let's go now. 1970, there were roughly half as many people in the world as there are now. Okay, so it's 30, 50 years, okay. Because of the declining growth rate, it will now take over 200 years to double again. Okay, so it's not going to be plain sailing, but that's a good thing because according to many experts, we are now becoming a little bit overpopulated for our planet, and I think it's kind of easy to see, yeah? Okay, growth rate. Now this is not the growth, but the growth rate, yeah? So as you can see, 1951, this is where this chart starts. It was quite kind of high, then it was peaked again in 1968, and it was going down and up, and then at around 1988, it started dropping, and now we are at 1.05%, so at around 1%, yeah? So we are growing much, much slower. And if we compound this, the difference between 1% and 2% is huge, yeah, because it just doubles, So 1%, 2%, 3% instead of 2, 4, 8, 16, it's a big difference, even though it's just 1% versus 2%, So let's continue. So the population currently is growing at a rate, as I mentioned, 1.05%. Okay, the current average population increase is estimated at 81 million people per year. So that's what we can expect around now. This is the growth. So 81 million people, so that's like London is the greater London, the whole metropolis, is this the word? Or, yeah, metropolis, let's call it, is around between 8 to 10 million people, depending how you calculate it. So that's around 10, at least, 8 to 10 Londons in a year. That's the growth. So it's pretty incredible. Now, I want to go back to actually the deaths. If we look at the deaths this year so far, 12 million people have already died all over the world. So it's more than one London. So it's like 1.2, 1.3 London. So this is the number of people that have died already on our planet this year. So get it. It's a huge number of people. Yeah. So now obviously I'm referring a little bit to the current virus. I don't want to say that I'm an expert in this. I'm not. I'm just saying, don't panic. Well, Some people will die. At the moment, it's still kind of under control, although the virus is spreading. Let's wait and see. Let's take precautions, obviously. Let's listen to the advice of our government and of experts, like real experts. But at the same time, let's not panic. Yeah, let's be happy and just be cautious. Yeah, that's what I recommend right now. Okie dokie, so world population 2020 and historical. So 2020 we have, what is it, almost 8 billion people, and urban population is almost 4 billion people, yeah? And then if we go down to 1955, it's 2.7, 2.8 almost. The numbers are not available. Well, let's see where we can... Do we have some numbers available? Okay, 1965. Okay, that's maybe not important. So let's look again at 2020. Yearly change is 105, whereas it was 180 in 1955. The median age, however, 30.9, and it was only 23 in 1955. So we live longer. Fertility rate, now fertility rate have dropped from 497 to 247. I don't know what that means exactly, so I'm not going to comment. Density has increased a lot, so from 19 people per kilometer square or per square kilometer to 52. That's a lot. And urban population 56% as opposed to 33 in 1960. Okay, so world population forecast. I think this is interesting. This is quite interesting. Okay, so in 2020, there is we're expecting 7.8 billion people on this planet, so 83 million more, and 4.4 billion people in urban areas, whereas in 30 years, so 2050, we're going to be at 9.7 billion. However, the change will be much smaller, 0.5% as opposed to over 1%. So only 50 million more people will be added in a year. But the median age will increase, yeah, from 31 to 36, yeah, and density will go from 52 to 65 people. And urban population will increase from 56 to 68. So from 4.3 billion to almost 7 billion people living in urban places. Now, what does it mean to you? Well, you need to think about it. Where do you live? What are your plans regarding your life, the kids you want to have, your career, businesses you want to undertake? Because if you look at those numbers, you think about them, put them in a perspective. You don't need to draw conclusions straight away. You can just take it slowly. But just think, okay, more and more people will be living in towns. There will be more and more population, but the growth will be slower. So the products maybe for children will be selling less and less, so to say, or fewer products, children products will be sold because the growth will be slower. But still, obviously, maybe people will have more income, so they might still be buying, children products, who knows? But maybe products for older people will be more and more popular because there will be more older and older people. So think about those things, how you could anticipate certain things and, make some intelligent guesses, yeah? By the way, now, if we look at those numbers, it might look, how do they know it's gonna happen? Well, nobody knows really what's gonna happen, but this is based on like real powerful science. It's not like someone has just looked at a few, charts and thought, what, in 2050, I guess it's gonna be 9.7 billion people. No, it's actually, these are serious studies. There are lots of people involved in that. Many different sciences, psychology, sociology, technology, all sorts of studies, sciences that you wouldn't even think of. Those people come up with incredible strategies to come up with those numbers. So they're very reliable. So unless there is something like a third world war, this is really going to happen. Most likely, no, this is most likely that's going to happen, okay? So very reliable data information. Right, population milestones. Now, we mentioned before that the population growth was slowing down, and we can see now the further thing. So let's look again at previous milestones. So we had 1 billion in 1804, then next billion 1930, 1960, 1974, and 1987. And then it started slowing down. So we've got 1999, the next billion. Then 12 years later, another billion. Now this is today. Then 12 years later, another billion. So 12 years from the previous billion. So 2011 to 2023. Then the next billion is expected to be at 2037. So that's how many years? 14. Okay, and then 20 more years to get to 10 billion. So again, the growth is slowing down in those predictions, yeah? Okie dokie, so 10 billion at 2057, so that's 37 years away. Yeah, I think so. I hope I calculated it correctly. Right, world population by region. This is another interesting thing. By the way, are you still with me? You know, if you need to pause the video now and take a breath, you know, because it's a lot of numbers and it might be a bit overwhelming if you're watching it at one go. Yeah, so now is a good time to go and make a coffee or tea or have a banana, you know. Right, so by region, Asia. 4.6 billion. Yeah, this is today. I guess this is because of India and China. They are biggest contributors. Africa, 1.3, yeah, quite a lot. Europe, half of Africa, so to say. Latin America and the Caribbean, just slightly behind Europe. Northern America, which is half of the Latin America, and Oceania, tiny 42 million. Oceania, I guess it's those areas here, Australia, New Zealand, and I don't know, some other islands here. Not Indonesia, because Indonesia is actually quite populous country. Where was that Indonesia? Let's have a look. They were like the fourth most populous country, 272 million. Yeah, so that's another example why knowing which countries have what populations helps you decide on certain things. Yeah, so I knew that it's not Oceania. They're not part of Oceania. Yeah. Minor things, but you know, just useful. Okay, are there any other statistics that might be interesting here? So yearly change. Oh, yearly change. That's a big thing. We can see that Asia changes only less than 1%, whereas Africa 2.5%. Wow! So there's a big growth going there. Europe. Look at this. Europe, tiny growth. It's incredible. 0.6%. Wow. So then we have Latin America, 1% growth, so that's even slightly bigger than Asia. And Northern America, okay, people are still, you know, multiplying there quite well, so to say, but it's just above 0.5%. And Oceania, very good number, very good number. Okay, so here we are. Now, density. Let's have a look at the density. So 150 people, very dense in Asia, obviously, because lots of people. Africa 45, Europe 34. So, okay, Latin America 32. So let's say Africa, Europe, and Latin America, they're kind of similar, although Europe is a little bit denser, slightly. Northern America, yeah, big areas in the US, Canada that are not really occupied by anyone. And then Oceania, well, yeah, so I think Australia is huge and not many people live there. How many people in Australia? 20 million or 25, something like this. And it's a huge continent. Okay, so there is this map of density. You know, the darker the areas, the more people live there. So we can see some areas in India are dark, some areas in China are dark. This is Japan, I think. Then if we look at Europe, there are some dark areas as well. A few places, so Italy, so this is the UK. I'm not sure about this. Belgium, Germany is somewhere there. Germany most probably. And then some US states, Florida, California, very populous. What is this country here in South America? Can't remember now. So very populous countries. By religion. Wow, this is the most exciting. Some people might think maybe even controversial. But anyway, let's have a look. By religion. So this is based on the 2010 world population of 7 billion. So this is like 10 years old already. So things may have changed a bit. So Christians, the largest, 31% of the population. 50% of which are Catholic, 37% Protestant, and 12 Orthodox. So Orthodox, I think that these are people who actually, they're mainly, I think, in Russia, the Orthodox Christians, they have their own name for that. They don't call themselves Orthodox. They are kind of like right law or something. I don't know the exact translation into English, but in Polish and Russian, that would be something like prawosławni, which is basically means like they are on the side of the law or something like this, you know. Okay, now Muslims, 1.6 billion, 23%. Now this is interesting. 87 to 90% are Sunnis and only 10 to 30% Shia. And this is incredible because seems to be a big conflict between those two groups. Like they don't like themselves. So the religion is not uniting them, but dividing them. They still fight between each other in many cases, which is crazy. You don't see Christians fighting with each other. They may not be tolerating each other, but they're not fighting, or they just like, yeah, whatever, you know. Whereas those guys, they seem to be fighting, at least in some parts of the world, like Iraq, for example. You know, that's incredible. But I guess that is boils down to maybe the historical conflicts that have been there, that have been happening there. But anyway, I'm not an expert in that, so I'm not going to express any opinion about this. Then we have 1.12 billion people, no religion affiliation, so like 16%. So that could be atheists, agnostics, and people who do not identify with any religion in particular. 1 in 5 people in the United States, so 20%, are religiously unaffiliated. So that's a big number. So United States, on one hand, it's somehow very religious, somehow even sometimes too religious, and many people who have lived there or been there, they say, you know, its religion is in your faces. They say, in God we trust, and in the quote they say, so help me God, and things like this. But on the other hand, 20% are not religious. Okay, so that's incredible. For example, Poland is quite religious, but there is a clear separation of the religion and the state. You know, you don't swear anything, like you don't say things like "so help me God" in the court of law or anything like this. You know, there is a clear separation, whereas in the US there isn't. So that's interesting. You know, you can get really surprised by looking at those stats. Right. So over 1 billion people are Hindus, 15%. An overwhelming majority of it, 94%, live in India. Yeah, that's not a surprise to me. Almost 500 million are Buddhists, or half of which live in China. Okay, interesting. 400 million folk religions, so like 6%. So faiths that are closely associated with a particular group of people, ethnicity, or tribe. Okay, fair enough. 58 million other religions, so that's like 1%. This is Baha'i, I don't know how to pronounce it, sorry. Taoism, Jainism, Shintoism, so I think that's in Japan. Sikhism, Tenriko, Wicca, Zoroastrianism, and many others. Okay, I'm really not familiar with those, don't know even how to say them. Sikhism, I'm familiar, these are the Sikh people. Nothing to do with sickness, you know, just a similar pronunciation. I think they also are in the Asian region, India and Pakistan. So I know a few Sikhs here in London, friends of mine, but I'm again not an expert in the religion. By the way, they have nothing to do with Islam. There may be some similarities, but this is a different religion. So sometimes people see people in those turbans and they think, oh, they're Muslims, but they're not. These are actually the Sikhs, so however you pronounce it. Very different, yeah? Don't confuse them. Right, so then we have almost 14 millions of Jews, and 4/5 of which live in 2 countries. United States 41%, and Israel 41%. Wow, this is incredible. Can you believe it? Wow, okay. Now I've learned something myself. Okay, so let's look at the chart now, because that always is nice to look at. So we've got Christian 31%, Muslims none, so atheists and similar to atheists, agnostics, deists, and no, deists are actually yeah, deists, because they believe in God but not do not follow any religions. They don't believe in religions. 15% Hindus. Okay, so wow, so atheists and similar are there are more of them than Hindus. Now this is from 10 years ago, but we can guess that roughly it's the same number today. And Christians, okay, and then we have a map. So the green one we've got, because I can see this green, it's very prominent in my eyes, so to say. So we've got Sunnis, and then a bit of Shiites, and then Islam, other groups. Okay, let's look at this one. This is Orthodox Christianity. Then the darker is other Christianity, so Latin America, US kind of mixed. Sorry, this is Canada, mixed. Then a bit of Africa, and Australia is kind of mixed as well. So then we've got Protestant Christianity, so the blue areas, USA, Greenland, okay, the Scandinavian countries, a bit of mixture in Germany and a bit in the UK mixture as well, and okie dokie. And then this one is Chinese religion, okay, Theravada Buddhism, okay, again, I don't know how to pronounce it, Mahayana Buddhism, Vajrayana Buddhism, okay, so India, and this is, what's this, is Mongolia, okay, interesting. All right, then, so, yeah, we've learned a lot, didn't we? Well, let's continue. Okay, world population by country. Why can't can I scroll? Okay, sorry, I just want to scroll it gently, and I don't know. Okay, anyway, this should be good enough. Oh yeah, I found it. Okay, here we go. Yeah, here we go. Okay, world population by country. So we've got China. We've looked at it already, but this is kind of a more detailed. These are more detailed numbers. So again, China, 1.4 billion, almost 1.5. India, not far behind China. USA, Indonesia, Pakistan, Brazil, Nigeria, Bangladesh, Russia, and Mexico. I know the English speakers say Mexico, but it's Mexico. That's how the local people say. So I will be saying Mexico, 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 not Mexico, 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 Mexico. Mexico, yeah, okay. I just don't want to live, study this, sorry, I don't want to live. I don't want to, I looked at this word and it kind of popped into my mind. I really don't want to study this any further. I think I've got enough for today, but let's go a little bit further down. So how many people have ever lived on Earth? Yeah, so during 1970s, it was written that 75% of people who had already been born were alive, but this was grossly false. So counting from 50,000 years BC, okay, and not from 100,000, okay, taking into account all the population data are a rough estimate, and assuming a constant growth rate applied to each period up to modern time, it has been estimated that a total of 106 billion people have been born since the dawn of human species, making the population currently alive roughly 6%. So that's incredible. Even though the population now is so much more than 1,000, 2,000 years ago, incredibly much more, it's only 6% of all people who have ever lived. Again, this is an estimation. It could be wrong, and it all again depends how you measure it, from which time, whether you calculate those only those Homo sapiens, or are you taking into consideration some other things? So it could be a different number. So again, just a good guess, yeah? Okay, others have estimated the number of human beings to be anywhere from 45 to 125 billion. So again, big difference, with most estimates falling into the range of 90 to 110 billion humans. Again, it is a science, but they don't have enough data and they can only, make a good guess. Okay, then there is World Population Clock Sources and Methodology. Okay, so if you are interested, you can read about how they did it. Wide world meter clocks are the most accurate. The above world Population Clock is based on the latest estimates released in June of 2019 by the United Nations and will show the same number wherever you are in the world and whatever time you set on your PC. Worldmeter is the only website to show live counters that are based on UN data and do not follow the user's PC clock. Okay, interesting. Visitors around the world visiting a PC clock-based counter see different numbers depending on where they are located, and in the past have seen other world population clocks, such as the one hosted on the United Nations website and on National Geographic, reaching 7 billion whenever their locally set PC clock reached 4:21 and 10 seconds AM on October 31st, 2011. Okay, obviously the UN data is based on estimates and can't be 100% accurate, of course. So in all honesty, nobody can possibly say with any degree of certainty on which day world population reached 7 billion or any other exact number, let alone at what time. But once an estimate is made, based on the best data and analysis available, the world population clock should be showing the same number at any given time around the world. Well, of course. Okay, so that's the website. There are a few other things there. So that's almost the end of the website. There is, can I show you the end of the website? Let me just go to where I'm recording the screen. So that's the end of the website. Okay, here you go. I hope you enjoyed it and you learned a lot. Any comments? You know, any surprises? Because, you know, I was surprised a lot. So tell me what you've learned about this, what conclusions you are drawing. And yeah, because I was surprised myself and I want to know where other people where you are regarding this, you know, and I think it's going to be an interesting discussion. Okay, so how many people have died so far? Oh, 303,300 people have been born today. Wow, 303.3. That's a lovely number. Thank you, the universe, for guiding me and drawing my attention to those incredible numbers. So yeah, I'm looking forward to your comments, guys, and take care. See you soon.